I'll just quickly take you through this. So, tackling a significant issue in our research work, and the editorial
Sir,
of AMJ, which I have put up in the folder in
sir,
the drive, it says that the problems and the reason why manuscripts do not tackle a significant issue is three. They talk about first tendency to favor familiar over the unfamiliar. So that means we, as researchers, we sort of do not get into unfamiliar territories. We keep doing familiar stuff. We do not take up issues that are new and something which has not been done. So that is the first problem or first tendency. The second tendency, they say, why researchers do not take up a significant issue is to prefer the mature to the nascent. So mature areas are those areas that have been researched a lot. Nascent areas are those which are new. Again, not much work has been done. So we tend to take uh, areas that are more safe and where a lot of people are doing work. So we also take up that as our area of work. But the more mature the area is, remember, the more difficult it will be to get published in that area. And the third problem is the tendency to prefer solutions that are near and known rather than new. So we tend to apply solutions that we are already familiar, we already know, rather than trying to come up with
sir,
some new ways of
sir, can you hear
tackling
me?
the challenge, tackling the problem that we are.
Vishal, sir, can
So
you
they
hear
say that
me?
why people do not take up a good topic, an interesting, a significant topic, is because of these three reasons and these three tendencies.
Poonam is trying
So
to
we
ask a
should
question.
uh, take up uh, an area of work that is both interesting and can
I think he is not able to
lead to
hear
some
anybody.
new discoveries in whatever area of work that we are looking at. So that is a quality of good topic choice, which often question the already taken for granted assumptions. So we challenge those assumptions in our area, in our field, and that becomes uh, a good topic to pursue, that is in our research. So build a study with ambitious scope. Remember, I was talking to you earlier in the day when I mentioned that if you are looking at any research work, especially in a PhD or in any research projects also, you should think about at least three contributions. So do not have studies or do not build studies which have just one uh, which have just one construct, just one uh, or very simple uh, 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 just maybe one or two relationships. You should think about at least 2-3 contributions in every kind of manuscript that you are preparing and developing.
Sir, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Yes, Poonam.
Okay. Yeah, earlier you were not able to, I think. Sir, I have a question here.
Yes.
So, when we are thinking about topic
Hmm.
or we are talking about topic choice, what should come first in your mind? Like the topic or the idea can come first, and then, because I'm still there, yesterday I asked you this question, that how
Yeah.
important it is to find out the theory or theoretical framework or theoretical underpinning for any topic.
Yes.
So if you get a topic, then you go and find out that what is the theory behind it, or theory should come first, like this is the theory and I'm going to think some topic around it.
No,
What
no.
should come first?
So think about it that way. What was first observed? Apple falling or the gravity was discovered first? People first observed that apple fell. Newton first observed that
Mhm.
apple fell, right? So what comes first is always the topic. Always the topic,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So the
So logically,
topic could be people leaving the organization, people not being
yes, sir. So
leaders.
logically, that is fine. I also think like that. But then again, going back and finding out theory is becoming difficult for me. It's my personal experience that when I thought about the topic, I started working around it. I collected data. I did everything. But
Hmm.
then now I'm getting this feedback that there is like you have to do some theoretical underpinning,
Yes.
and there I'm stuck. So how should we go about it? Or
So
is it fine to share
people,
it with others and try to get their idea that
people
what theory can support?
work. What is your
Sir?
area? What is the topic of your
Sir,
work?
my recent paper, which I'm talking here and which I shared with you as well, but I worked on it later. So it's talent management strategies relationship with succession planning.
Yes.
So in talent management strategies, I have divided it into three parts: the talent management identification, talent management development, and then talent retention as mediating variable, and
Yes.
then impact on succession planning.
No problem. I now you see when you talk about this
Hmm.
talent management and succession planning,
Hmm.
you see when you read papers on them, I am sure they will talk about some theory, some foundation, right? If not, you can apply. So I'm just giving you some examples. You can talk about resource-based view, right? You can
Hmm.
talk about high performance HR practices as a theoretical framework that was talked about, right?
Hmm.
Talent management is an aspect of high performance HR practices. You can even talk about leadership succession planning. You can talk about uh, uh, if it is succession planning, you can look at different theories of leadership which can impact where succession planning is talked about, and so on. So it is not that there are no theories. I think what you've got to look at is look at those papers that you are reading,
Hmm.
okay, and then uh, uh,
So, sir, those papers which I have considered like quite relevant, they are talking about some theories. So, is it that we can also use same theories? It's not that, na?
yeah.
Those papers are talking about some theories. So, can we also talk about those theories? No.
Absolutely, absolutely. Theory is not uh,
Oh, okay,
theory is not reserved for one paper.
okay.
Theories are general theories, and you have to talk about those.
Hmm, hmm,
You
hmm.
have to talk about
Okay, yeah, okay.
it.
I'll talk about it later. Yeah.
Let me go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
So when you build your studies, my suggestion is don't have very simple plain relationships or research questions that you are trying to think about. Have either you should definitely you should have multiple constructs. You should have 3 or 4 constructs. You should be testing at least 3 4 relationships in a study so that you have mm, 3 multiple contributions that you are trying to make, multiple theories or multiple ways of looking at the relationships. So maybe one or uh, two theories as I mentioned. So try to integrate multiple theories if possible. That will make it a little more richer. And even if it is just one theory can explain all those 3 4 relationships, that is also perfectly fine. Multiple studies, this is a trend that is happening these days. So if you look at top journals, multiple studies are usually where the paper talks about two studies. One study was done in a college with students, they were surveyed, and then there was a follow-up study that was done with professionals. And so there are multiple studies. uh, in some papers you see there are, one study was an experiment, second study was a survey done with professionals. So those kind of, so that increases the first of all robustness of your results, because you are going to now show that there were two studies, both of them supported the relationships that you hypothesized. And then using those multiple studies adds to the richness of your manuscript and increases the chances of your publication. So if there is a possibility, if you are in the planning stage, think about, can you conduct multiple studies? One could be done with college students, another one could be done with professionals, one could be an experiment, another could be a survey based, one could be a qualitative qualitative work, other could be a quantitative. So that kind of things are more and more useful these days.
So, Lekha here. So, I thought this is done for scale validation, if I'm not wrong, these multiple studies.
Multiple studies can be done for testing of relationships also, because remember, each method has a limitation. So experiments are very good from the point of view of causality, and surveys, but experiments have poor external validity because they are done in artificial conditions, whereas surveys are, or field studies are done on professionals who are actually working in organizations. So they may not be the best standard from the point of view of causality, but they are very rich from the point of view of data coming from field settings or work settings, right? So you can have multiple studies also. Obviously scale, yes, scale, you need to have multiple studies, scale development, but even otherwise you can have multiple studies that sort of show you, give us the same result. I published a paper recently. It was published in AMJ, Academy of Management Journal, where we did two studies. One, we collected data from India, another data we collected from Hong Kong, and we analyzed and we published. We analyzed and we saw that the results were consistent across two samples, across the two studies, and therefore we had a much better test of the findings and validity of the study results. So we got support for our findings in both the two samples or two studies.
Okay.
So that kind of thing actually improves your chances of getting published. So good studies offer counterintuitive insights. I think we have been talking a lot about this. Highlights effect of new and important practices, shows inconsistencies and consequences of practices. So you can uncover some of those inconsistencies, suggests a new theory to explain a phenomena, which is usually done in qualitative research, and identifies an iconic phenomena that opens new areas of important practice. So both of last two are usually um, uh, done using qualitative research, right? So good. So that is the first thing of what is the first thing that you have to think about is what is going to be our topic of research, right? Now let us come to the first thing, the first part